Listening well, listening for wellness. Listening to music can be very powerful. The ancient Greeks believed that different musical modes or moods could provoke different behaviors. While that may seem strange to us, it was not strange to them. It was so powerful that Plato's Republic strictly regulated music. In the Bible, almost 30 passages exhort the making and listening of music. Like other wellness behaviors, we should listen well. So, what are questions that we can answer? And what are we about to learn? How do we listen well? And what should we be listening to? There are a lot of problems with listening in our world. In our modern world, unlike our predecessors, music is everywhere. Whereas even 100 years ago, chances are if you wanted to listen to music, you might have to make it for yourself on the piano or on a fiddle or a guitar. But now, music is almost everywhere with radio, recordings, Muzak that plays everywhere, banks, grocery stores, and of course in our cars. We see music everywhere. With that pervasiveness of music, we're actually conditioned not to listen to music. Another problem with music as an art form is that music exists in time. We can go to a museum and look at a painting, and we can look at it for 2 seconds or 2 hours. But with music, if it's 3 minutes long, it takes us 3 minutes to appreciate it. If it's an hour long, it takes us an hour to appreciate it or not appreciate it. So how do we listen well? I think to listen well, we have to understand that we listen on different levels. And this is true for all of us. We need to develop our own vocabulary for listening so that we can describe the music. And especially, we need to learn to concentrate on the music. Now, that's really very hard. People say, oh, well, I can concentrate on something. Well, actually, if you talk about concentrating without your mind wandering at all, most people can only concentrate for a few seconds. When I talk about levels of listening, I'm getting this from a very popular book that's been out there for more than 50 years. And I would recommend this book to you. You can find it online. There's actually a PDF of it. Famous American composer Aaron Copland wrote a book more than 50 years ago now called What to Listen For in Music. He describes 3 levels of listening: the sensuous level, the expressive level, and finally the purely musical level. In the sensuous level, we're just concentrating on the simple sound and its effect on the sense of hearing. It's what the ear hears. We like it or we don't like it. Just like a child likes a certain food or doesn't like a certain food. Most of us have raised children, and we know that it's chicken fingers and mac and cheese, and that's your limited thing when they're small. Later, we hope they grow and they develop a greater palate. And it's the same way for music. We should listen to a larger variety. The second level is the expressive level. And I sometimes say the word projective level because this is where music projects something or recalls something in a memory. It reminds us of something, someone, or a particular experience. It's also true that some music is written to deliberately tell a story. Now, songs are very much story-oriented, and sometimes that's part of it. But sometimes music is what we call programmatic, and it's actually about an event or something. Finally, there's the purely musical level, in which we get inside the music by describing its parts. The easiest way to begin to do this is to start thinking about musical elements. Now, you can go out on the internet and find any list of elements of music you want to and work with that. The list I have here is purely arbitrary, but most everyone is going to describe something like this. It's going to be rhythm, it's going to be timbre, that is tone color or instrumentation. It's going to be texture, that is what's going on top to bottom at a point in time. It's going to be dynamics. It's always, that is it always the same volume or is it loud and soft? Obviously, in our car, we control the volume by the volume knob. And then finally, there's form. What happens in time, that is what comes first, what comes second, and how are they related? One element that I deliberately left off here is melody. And melody is one that's very hard to describe, I think. But we can talk about melody in relationship to rhythm. Is it related to the rhythm or is it related to some other element? So how should we listen? What you want to begin to do if you're going to listen critically and listen as an engaged listener is to describe to yourself what you're hearing. It doesn't really matter if you use my elements or not, or whatever you say, it just matters that you try. What we're after is engaged listening, not passive listening. For musicians, it's very hard to listen passively. The idea of studying for an exam when I was in college and having music on at the same time would have driven me crazy because if there's music on, I can't not listen to the music. I'm going to be concentrating on the music. And so for us, we need to develop that sense of putting the music first and putting that where we're actually engaging in our listening. So then, if we're going to develop this sense of listening as an engaged listener, what should we listen to? Well, let's go back to the child that only eats mac and cheese and chicken fingers or maybe the occasional pizza. That's not a very balanced diet. And so we end up giving the child gummy bears or whatever else in terms of vitamins that they like, Flintstones. And so we have to supplement that. As children grow up, they eat a greater variety of food, and we should look at a greater and listen to a greater variety of listening. Our listening should be varied. You ought to make a point to listen to things that are new to you, not just what you already know. Luckily, our society has a little thing called YouTube, which gives everyone an opportunity to try new things and for free. You can also use apps like Spotify or other things, or just buy CDs. So what do I listen to? I listen to almost everything. I probably listen to a greater variety of music than most anybody I know. I listen to classical a lot, but I also listen to a good bit of jazz, some pop, some country and western, and a lot of classical church music, since that's my game. I'm a classically trained church musician. Notice I've listed pop and I also listed jazz, and I wanted to bring up something here. We have a wonderful jazz radio station in Birmingham now, 91.1, or Jazz Hall Radio. 91.1 used to be the Sanford Jazz station several years back, and then when Sanford decided to redo one of their major buildings, it was going to cause them to have to give up the radio station, at least temporarily. Then they made a decision to give it up to Jazz Hall of Fame. And Jazz Hall Radio is very, very fine. They have a great website, and so you can listen online as well as listen in your car or listen to the radio at home. They play a great variety of things. I particularly like Bart Groom's noonday show, and then there's an 8 o'clock on Saturday morning show called In the Mood, which is all about big band stuff, and it's a wonderful radio show. So there's a lot of things out there to listen to. Few of my favorites. I love a lot of the late romantic German stuff. So Gustav Mahler, his symphonies and his songs are very fine to me. I love them a lot. Everybody I know that's a good classical musician loves Bach. I also love Mendelssohn. He's a particular favorite of mine. Later French Impressionist composer Maurice Ravel is a favorite of mine. And contemporary American composer John Adams is somebody I like a lot. Well, what are some of the artists I listen to? One of my favorite pianists out there is a Russian-born or Ukrainian-born lady named Valentina Lisitsa. I think she's just the best there is out there. She's all over YouTube, and she's done a lot of recordings as well. I hope at some point to get to hear her. One of my favorite singers is the Welsh bass baritone Bryn Terfel. One of my favorite organists out there, since I'm an organist, is David Briggs. David Briggs is a Brit. He was an organ scholar at King's College, Cambridge, many years ago. Actually met him, and I had actually bought a piece of his that we were working on and had planned to do Maundy Thursday before the pandemic caused us to have to give up choir. He's a brilliant improvisateur. I think he's the best one out there. If you go to YouTube and do David Briggs' Old MacDonald, I think you'll be in for a treat. I listen to a lot of jazz, and that's something that has grown with me over the last 20 or 30 years. I think the greatest American singer of all time might be Ella Fitzgerald. I also listen to pianists since I'm a pianist. Oscar Peterson is probably the greatest pianist in jazz history. There's a contemporary Japanese woman, Hiromi Uehara, who I think is fabulous as well. And then I listen to a good bit of Stevie Wonder. I'll never forget, years ago, I was driving back from a school event on a Sunday afternoon, and Ella Fitzgerald was at the Montreux Jazz Festival. And she spotted Stevie Wonder in the audience, and she brought him up, and they did changes on You Are the Sunshine of My Life, and that went on for about 25 minutes because they're both incredible, incredible musicians. There are a lot of pop artists out there that I like a lot. You know, there are too many to name. I have, though, since I'm a pianist, I particularly am drawn to piano covers of various things. Two particular piano groups I like. I like the duet group Anderson and Rowe, and I like the solo artist Peter Bentz. They both do fabulous covers. They're really very excellent. In terms of country and western, just pick anybody that was in the Ken Burns film about country music, and I probably listened to them at one time or another, and I like them a lot. Great church music, I listen to the Cambridge choirs, King's College, St. John's College, Trinity College, and others. There are so many out there. Their work is fabulous. So that's a little bit about how we should listen and what we should listen to. Broaden your listening habits. Engage yourself in listening. And I think you'll enjoy music much more than if you just let it be in the background.
Good morning. Hi. I am out on my front porch early in the morning, 6:30, something like that. Hang on, truck's going by. I'm going to focus my camera on away from me because I don't feel like it's going to be very interesting for you to see my face, especially not right now at this time in the morning. So anyway, I wanted to speak to you a little bit about sound and music and their effect on the human body, mind, and spirit. And I just wanted to point out that everything has its characteristic frequency. You know, the human hearing has only a very limited range, really, of what we can pick up with our ears. There's Mama Cardinal. See? There she is, peeping away. Anyway, everything puts out even if we think it's not making a sound, it is. So, for example, that cedar tree right there, where there's a nest of blue-gray gnatcatchers right now, babies. You know, that cedar tree, it seems to not be making a sound, but it is. It's putting out a very, very high frequency sound. It's not static, it's dynamic. Basically everything, even, you know, the wooden floor here, the table, all of that, the iron railing, all of that has its characteristic signature. So it's all energy, it's all vibration, it's all, you know, the sound. You know, it's famously said in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. And so it's my belief that there is a universal frequency that binds all created universe together. And that for us, the challenge is tuning ourselves to that universal frequency when there is so much other sound and other energies that are basically drowning out what's, at least, I mean, it's not really, but certainly with our perception is that it's drowning it out. I think this time frame that we're living in right now is very important. It's been called a time of difficulty, and it is. There's no question there's a difficult aspect of it. But I also think that God is leading us higher. That's my neighbor and her dogs. I think God is trying to shake us up and help us start thinking in new ways. It takes some work. And I think it's very important for us to take advantage of this and to not be all gloom and doom and fear and all of that. And I think that music and sound can really help us with this. Walking back towards my garden right now, so you can look at some different scenery. Anyway, when I was in my 30s, I went to a workshop on sound healing. And basically, there's some scientific background. Dr. Ernst Chladni, basically the father of acoustics, they call him. He was a German scientist and musician in the 18th century. And Dr. Chladni would he mounted a brass disc on a spindle, rather, and he would sprinkle it with very light substance like cornstarch, and draw his cello bow over it. See, there's my oregano, my peppers, my sage, my thyme, my rosemary, and it would create fantastical patterns, and just mandala type patterns on the disc. The higher the frequency, the more fantastic the patterns. Since then, Dr. Hans Jenny, a Swiss scientist and doctor, did really fantastic work, and he named this cymatics, the field of cymatics, basically. And to me, he did just astonishing work, and that he just sort of furthered the work of Dr. Chladni. And I want you to look at the links that I've attached to this video, because these YouTube videos really tell you more than I can about the field of cymatics and sound and its effect on the human body. Here's my basil. Oh, and those were my tomatoes. And so I have been doing work with toning while I've been going through this time period. Basically, that's just making, creating tones. Like, for example, I'll use a vowel sound, and I'll go like, and I will use different tones, different vowel sounds, and different rhythms as well, basically corresponding to the 7 energy centers or chakras in our bodies. And I am telling you, it has helped me so much clear out so much unwanted emotional baggage, the stuff that was left over from the past that I was still holding in my body. It was amazing. I mean, at first when I started doing it, it made me cry a lot. But it was good crying, it's like it was a release, a huge release. And the longer you can sustain this, the better. What I found was in the beginning, I could only do it for short periods without. Yeah, I had to work. But then over time, as I did it more, it got easier, and now I can sustain it for really long periods of time. And it just, the human body is over 70% water, 80%. And then think about it, the planet is 80% water as well. And, these effects are so pronounced. And, Hans Jenny actually discovered that this sound, these high frequency sounds can destroy cancer cells. And he observed it under a microscope, that they would just explode when exposed to this. So, I just think we can't underestimate the power of sound on the human body and mind and spirit and on our emotions. We all know how music can change our feelings very quickly. We can be feeling really stressed out, and we can turn on some music, and pretty soon we're in a different place. And I think that that should be our tip-off right there. It's more than just feelings. It affects everything. So I wanted to point out one more person that I'm attaching a video regarding is Dr. Masaru Emoto, a Japanese scientist who did a study on the effect of sound on water. And what he did was he would expose water to different sounds, like a symphony, folk song, different tones, whatever, and then he would freeze the water, flash freeze the water, and photograph it, and just created fantastic, amazing patterns. But to me, the most remarkable was the work that he did, was the effect of thoughts and emotions on that water. And he would send, the energy of love into water, then flash freeze it, and then he would use, destructive words, hate, die, all of that sort of thing, and then also photograph it, and flash freeze it and photograph it. And yeah, you just need to look at it. It is really amazing. And so I want you to look at these things and think about them, and then keep doing the work, because it's really important. This is not just a random happening here that's going on, and it's time to pay attention. So anyway, I love you all, and have a good day.
Hello everyone, my name is Dana, and I'm really excited to be talking with all of you today about music and wellness. My assignment is to talk about music and how it drives balance and happiness in a child's life. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, I have 3 children. I come from a musical family background. My father was a minister of music. My mom is a church organist. I sing in the choir at Ascension. I have my undergraduate degree is in musical theater. I've done a lot of theater on stage. I've taught children in the Birmingham community. I've taught theater and movement to music, and done a little vocal coaching here and there. So I know a little bit about the subject, and am happy to share with you what I know and what I believe about music and children. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we use music in our home here with 3 children. Our sons are ages 10, 9, and 16 months old. So we have quite a range, and we use music in different ways. One of the biggest things that we do, and a way that we use music, is we sing prayers at meal times. This is something that is good because the kids can get involved. It becomes sort of a family tradition, and everyone has a role. Also, we like to sing our bedtime prayer. We actually have a song that we sing, May the Road Rise to Meet You. Every night we sing that. My husband actually started that tradition with our oldest son when he was just a little baby, and that is something that we do now. And hopefully my children will continue that on to their children as well. Also, we have playlists, especially for our youngest. He is almost 16 months now, and we can just find him in sort of a mood at times and having a busy schedule or not, during this time. It's good still to have those playlists. We have a song or two that we will press play or ask Alexa to play a song, and he will just pop up and he will start dancing. So it really does affect a mood, I would say. And it really helps kind of raise your child in a way. But that's one of the other uses of music that we have in our home. We also like to create and sing song word games and rhymes. I know that sounds like a little silly and juvenile, but it's really fun, and it's also very stimulating to the brain. If we sing a song, we'll start it out and we try to get the guys to end it with a word that rhymes. So that's also a good use for car time, or just a way to work as a team at home, or just to do something silly and fun. So those are just some other things besides your traditional, sit around the piano or play with what you have at home, like a harmonica or ukulele. Today, when I was thinking about if music drives happiness in a child, I was like, yes, the answer is yes. Short answer is yes. But also I was thinking about adults too. And I saw my neighbor walking down the street, and I thought, she plays a ukulele, and I've never seen an unhappy ukulele player. So, yes, music brings happiness to all ages. There are so many studies out there on music and how it helps to develop a child's brain. Some believe that music enhances quality of life, including health, wellness, education, creativity, and emotional expression. Research shows that music can lift your mood. Studies suggest music can boost happiness and reduce anxiety. According to researchers, listening to sounds such as music and noise has a significant effect on our moods and emotions because of a brain dopamine regulation, a neurotransmitter strongly involved in emotional behavior and mood regulation. There are many ways in which we can create music with a child for free. Vocal cords are the only innate instruments that are created in a human being. There are other instruments that we can use, which is percussion, like clapping, snapping, stomping, and patting on your thighs. Also, there's tons of stuff around your home. So if you can grab a wooden spoon, you can play it on a pot. You can play it with your child. You can also make different instruments just by using things that you find around your house. Today I found a leftover Easter egg, some uncooked rice, and some washi tape, and made a shaker with the baby. And that was a really exciting instrument for a little while with him. But if you're going to buy a musical instrument to make music in your home, you can certainly do that as well. There's something about listening to music or playing it with other people that brings its own social awareness, making you feel connected to those around you. Music at early ages helps children express themselves and share feelings. Even at an early age, they can sway, they can bounce, they can move their hands around as they hear the music. I hope that this portion has been helpful and inspiring, and maybe you've learned something, or you can try something new, that I've given you an idea, or it's led to another thought of how you can help with balance and by having music in your life, especially with children. So, but we are all children of God, and He created music for us. If you are not a great singer, make a joyful noise. I firmly believe that God hears all of us the same way. So, don't be afraid to sing a book to a child, or make up a silly song, or if you're too intimidated by those things, just listen to a song, or start a new playlist, or find something that really speaks to you, or try something new. So anyway, this has been really good for me too, to learn and just kind of have a refresher course on why I love what I love and I do what I do. So thanks.